Hello, you're listening to an Other Girls Media production, Oops, Spoilers. This is the podcast where we talk about movies, TV shows, and books. We review them as well as talking to different creators, as well as anything entertainment-wise. Like this is the place. So really excited. This is our first co-hosted book review. And we're reviewing a book. We're both in a book club, and we're reviewing the book that we read last year. By the time you guys hear this, will be last year of our book club called Code Name Helene. It is truly, it's so good. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to read the description, and then when we get to the oops spoilers part, after I read the description, you can decide if you want to wait and then come back, or if you were like, no, I just want to be spoiled. Okay. Here's the description. So, Codename Helene by Ariel Lawhon. Hone. You'll figure it out when you see it. Okay. Told in interweaving timelines organized around 4 code names Nancy used during the war, Codename Helene is a spellbinding and moving story of enduring love, remarkable sacrifice, and unfaltering resolve that chronicles the true exploits of a woman who deserves to be a household name. In 1936, Nancy Wake is an intrepid Australian expat living in Paris who has bluffed her way into a reporting job for Hearst newspaper, where she meets the wealthy French industrialist Henri Fioca. No sooner does Henri sweep Nancy off her feet and convince her to become Mrs. Fioca than the Germans invade France, and she takes yet another name, a code name, as Lucine Callier. Nancy smuggles people and documents across the border, and her success and her remarkable ability to evade the capture earns her the nickname the White Mouse from the Gestapo. With a 5 million franc bounty on her head, Nancy is forced to escape France and leave Henri behind. When she enters training with the Special Operations executives in Britain, her new comrades are instructed to call her Helene. And finally, with mission in hand, Nancy is airdropped back into France as a deadly Madame Andre when she claims her place as one of the most powerful leaders in the French resistance. Armed with ferocious wit, her signature red lipstick, and the ability to summon weapons straight from the Allied forces. Okay, this summary is incredibly long, but that's all you need to know. I don't want to do what they do with movies.
I was wondering, because mine is 2 paragraphs on the back of my book, and it's similar, some of the parts are the same as what you read, but then you just kept going, and I was like, where on earth, who wrote all of this down?
I'm reading from Goodreads. This is a lot. This is telling the books, so that's not what we want to do here, not yet. So, all right, we're going to be going over, for those who are new to the show, we give a TOG score, which is just a score that we use to rank from 1 to 5, whether this is something that, you guys should listen to if you consider yourself a Christian, and you like entertainment. Some of it is going to obviously be, so one of the rubrics is plot and entertainment. Honestly, obviously, what entertains me might not entertain you, so, give it some wiggle room. But for the most part, we're going to give an overview of a rating, and the ratings are going to be from things from plot, language, spice, entertainment, and then the themes of the book. And then we're going to also just give our thoughts and opinions. Now, if you want to read this and not be spoiled, now is the time you log off and listen to Those Other Girls with Mallory and Friends. Or Open to Life. Yeah, go ahead and switch the podcast if you do not want to be spoiled. But if you do want to be spoiled, here we go. You're now listening to Oops, Spoiled. Okay. So let's just start off with, let's start from the beginning. What was your initial overview thoughts of the book?
Once I finished it?
Yeah, once you finished it, you were just okay. What was your first, wow, how do I feel?
I'm going back. Well, first of all, I think the author's note at the end really just encapsulates the whole experience of reading the book so nicely. So if you are thinking about reading this and you're not normally a person who reads a prologue or an author's note, for this one, 110% I think you have to.
Agreed.
But then I think the ending of this is just so, we can't spoil it.
Yes, we can. If you spoil, say whatever you want. we have oops spoilered, oops spoiled, oops spoiled, oops spoilers. We have oops spoiled it. Once you hear that oops spoilers, yeah, say it. Say it.
Well, I mean, there's a lot of it's a war book, so that shouldn't even really be a spoiler that there's a lot of really hard moments. But I feel like she does such a good job like having those little like lighthearted moments in there, and then like the flashbacks. So like you were saying with the summary and the interweaving timelines, there's like kind of flashbacks throughout, right, of like her life before the war and like falling in love with Henri and so it's kind of like you have like the so many ups and downs, but at the end I just feel like it comes together so nicely in the like just like the picking up the pieces after this like horrific experience, that really the entire world went through together. And so I feel like it's a very satisfying ending, and so for me, which we can get into later when we give the TOG scores, the multi timeline thing was a little bit confusing, like going back and forth. I kind of think I would have maybe preferred it to be more sequential, but I understand why she didn't do it that way, because then it would have just been like happy, happy, happy war,
Yeah.
So I get it, but it also made it a little bit confusing for me. The end, though, tied everything together really nicely, and it made it feel like, okay, like this is it's over and we can like rebuild. And for Nancy, at least, like she did everything she could have done, like she did her best for what she was called to do, and she was kind of at peace in that, even though she went through so much.
Yeah. I want to say really quick to your comment about the timelines. You said that at book club, and I think so did Brittany. I honestly didn't mind the timelines, but it's because I picked up, for example, if it was Marseille, then it was back in the past. I picked up like I listened to the audiobook. I read some of it on my Kindle, but I listened to the audiobook, and it would say the town it's in, and I noticed if it was in Marseille, then it was like the past. So like that really helped me. I feel like I didn't get confused at all with the timelines, just because like I picked up on like the location. But I definitely understand getting confused with the timelines, because when they it takes a long time for them to even converge. I feel like sometimes when you read multiple timeline books, halfway through is typically when they converge, but they didn't converge to like the last chapter, I think. So
yeah. So it was just like it just took me out of the story a little bit when we switched, So it just took me a second to be like, oh, okay. It wasn't that I was like, oh my gosh, wait, what happened? Like mistaking the past for the present. It was just like, oh, we're back,
yeah. Well, what she would do sometimes, and I will say it kept me reading, is she would end a chapter on like a cliffhanger, and then she'd be like, okay, now we're back in the future. And it's like, no, what happened in the past? And to me, I'm like, oh, that makes me want to keep reading.
Yeah, it was brilliant. And like, again, it makes sense. It just made me work a little bit harder, which is not necessarily a bad thing, but I think it's good to be aware of, like, before you pick it up, know? Like, you're going to have to engage your brain.
Yeah. So my initial thoughts were, it honestly was very inspiring. Like, I don't normally read historical fiction, and I certainly, no offense to those who like it, I'm not really interested in like war stuff, like not books, not movies, not TV shows. Like, every time it's about a war, I'm probably going to like skedaddle. But this was just so well done. And like initially when I first picked up the book and was reading it, I was like, okay, I'm probably not going to like this. But by the end, I'm like, I listened to it before I'm going to bed. I'm in the bed listening to it. I'm waking up while I'm getting ready listening to it. It's also thick. It's also long. I think it was like 16 hours. It was long.
Yeah.
So I'm like listening to it. I'm like, this is so good. So it was just truly inspiring. Yeah, it's a really good book. I think it is the best book the book club has read, other than Cruel Prince, which, I have a special heart for that. But like, it was the best book the book club has ever read.
Yeah.
So yeah. So let's kind of get into some of our like thoughts on, first thing is plot. So it takes place during World War II in Nancy Wake's perspective. Now, Nancy Wake also, and you learn this in the author's note, Nancy Wake is a real person. I did not know she was real at first. So when she did say she interviewed Hitler, that almost took me out because I like low-key hate when people write fiction and then they write in someone real. And I was like, oh God, okay. Wow, this is truly a superwoman. But then it's like, oh wait, no, she really did. I was like, oh wow, she really is a superwoman.
She truly is a superwoman.
Yeah. What were you thinking about when it comes to the plot? Like, what were you excited? How often do you read historical fiction?
I read more, I feel like, historical fantasy than true historical fiction. Historical fantasy I love, like it's set in a historical time period, but there's magic or there's, whatever.
Okay. I was like, what
True
is historical
fiction?
fantasy?
Yeah. So this book that I just finished, What the River Knows, is historical fantasy. So it's like
Okay.
set in like 1800s Egypt, but there's like magic and that kind of thing. So it's like this didn't really happen, but it's like set in a world that existed.
Like Abraham Lincoln Vampire Slayer.
Yeah. Would be, I guess, like like historical paranormal. I don't know if that's a thing, but anyway, so that was my lowest. It was my lowest score point just because, again, with the kind of flashing back, I'm torn, honestly. Maybe I'll bump it up a little bit. I gave it a 2 just because it fit being confusing, and I felt like it didn't always make sense why we were like why we included the scenes that we did when we did,
Yeah.
I didn't always feel like we have to flash back and like figure why this is happening out. But as far as like the story itself, which I kind of reflected that in my other areas of the rubric, like how interested I was in the themes and the depth and that kind of thing, because the story itself is really interesting. It was just the layout of it that I was confused by.
Understandable. It's your personal choice. I'm not gonna though I think you're wrong. I'm just joking. It's your personal choice. So I gave it a 4. Like I said, I thought it like war I'm not really interested in, but everything else I truly did enjoy. Like I thought it was really good. The timeline thing didn't bother me. I mean the only thing, like if I want to be nitpicky, I forgot what it's called when a girl is like everything, like when she's like perfect, like the trope of like she pretty much makes no mistakes and she can like defeat anyone.
Yeah.
Low key, that is kind of how it felt, especially another oops spoiler when she with her hands killed a Nazi soldier, which they say that actually happened. So I don't want to take it away, but when I think more about it, it does feel a little bit like with your bare hands, this random girl. Okay,
but she was trained like as a military like person. She was, it wasn't like you or I like walking up and being like, ah.
Yeah. No, it's possible. I mean, they're telling us it's true, but I will say, I read that, I was like, oh, okay, all right, girl.
Yeah, so interesting because I feel like even though she's like very capable and she throughout the course of the book is doing all these crazy like incredible feats, I feel like her like emotional and mental stability during those times kind of balances out that physical capability that she has. So like she's like biking all across France, and like retrieving radios for the resistance and like taking out these soldiers and these grown men with her bare hands. But she's also like losing friends and like not able to save them. She's losing allies and not able to save them. The like Germans are discovering her location, or there are spies, or there's this woman that
just tracking her,
frames her husband and is responsible for his death. So even though it's like she's kind of like superwoman type character, there's still so many people that she can't save and so much that she's going through internally and she can't fix that I feel like for me that kept me from being too worried about like could she really do that?
Yeah, that's fair. That's a fair assessment.
Both things are true, I feel like, because it
Yeah.
is a pretty incredible story.
Yeah. All right. Next one on our list, entertainment value. What did you think about it entertainment wise?
I gave it a 4. I enjoyed it. I had a strong interest in the plot. But I I can't remember. Hang on, I got to look at the rubric to remember why I didn't give it a 5. Um
Do you give out 5 sparingly?
I give out 5s when they're deserved,
Oh.
but like I would have to for me, I feel like it would have to meet this description of the 5. So 5 on our rubric is couldn't put it down, addicting, emotional, binge worthy. And for me, like this book, it took me like a month and a half to read it. So I wouldn't consider it like addicting or like binge worthy, couldn't put it down. It was amazing and like very thoughtful and thought provoking. Just because of like the way that I processed the story, I was like, I would put it in the 4. It was very engaging. I had strong interest and I enjoyed virtually all of it.
Okay. I gave it a 4.5. I do not give out my 5s very easily. Like, you have to earn a 5.
Yeah.
So I give it a 4.5. It was addicting for me. It was emotional and it was binge worthy for me, but it wasn't perfect. So that's why I say it was a 5. I think to me, there was enough like interest in like, okay, how is she going to handle this? And the love aspect of it, which, I can't help it. It was just really sweet how much he cared about her. And then like, when, once again, no spoilers, when they killed Henri, first of all, it was just kind of like, I don't care about anything else that happens in this book. Like, he is her husband. Like, why on earth did they kill him? But
yeah.
I thought it was beautiful. And I want to read really quick. Sorry, you guys, I'm coughing again. Okay. I want to read something that I highlighted in my Kindle that apparently a bajillion other people highlighted as well.
While you're looking for that, there's an oops spoilers moment that happened in real life. When we were at book club and you and Brittany started talking about Henri dying, I hadn't gotten to that part yet.
Really?
And so, yeah. So
Oops.
I was prepared for it to be spoiled because I didn't finish the book,
Yeah.
But I was shook. I was so shook and I'm just sitting there like trying to hold in my like emotional distraught nature.
Yeah.
And you guys are like, and I was like, perfect. So I have that to look forward to. And that's fantastic.
I will say I knew he was dead because they kept saying she has to get back home to him. She has to get back home to him. So I'm like, okay, he's dead. I think I just didn't want to believe it. But like, you read enough books, you kind of know like when they keep saying they're going to get married. I know for a fact Mary Sue and Elijah are getting married. They're going to get married. They certainly are going to get married. They're going to get married on this date. Then like, okay, Elijah or Mary Sue's about to die.
Yeah. Goodbye, Mary Sue and Elijah.
Yeah,
no more.
Yeah, one or both. There will be. Okay, so what I highlighted this in my Kindle. It says, this was an author's note. This is what she says. But I am inspired by their courage, and I want to live the kind of love. My holy book says, greater love has no man than this, and he would lay down his life for his friends. I believe that Honoré Fioca displayed the greatest love possible. And I just thought that was so beautiful. The fact that he wouldn't give up his wife. That's what he was killed for. Not giving up where his wife was and like, standing up for what was true. And like, it's just so beautiful. Makes you want to cry thinking about it. So, so for me, the entertainment was a 4.5. All right, let's go to themes. This is a new one that we've never done before. So yeah, new one we've never done before. Let you go first, because I haven't even thought about like what score I would give for my themes. You go.
So themes and depth. I gave this a 5 because I felt like it was very like thought-provoking, it was meaningful. They were like, it was spiritually reflective and morally rich. The character Nancy Fukasha is not she's not portrayed to be a Christian in the book, but I do feel like she lives by a very strong moral standard, and you see that very often throughout the book. Like, there are several times where you have like prisoners of war situations or like captives and hostages, and you can see her like struggle through, like, okay, these are like these people that have been, doing horrible things to resistance, or even just like French like civilians that just get in their way, like knowing that they are the moral like I have the moral superiority in this situation. Like, I feel as though I can exact justice on this person, and how she chooses to do that in what I would consider to be a very like godly and Christ-like way, like choosing to rise above instead of meeting the aggressor where they're at and like giving them what they're due, or responding in revenge, um just like dealing with all of the struggles and hardship that people were facing, in 1940s France and the Allied countries. Just how difficult it was for them, and the struggle of seeing the people on the other side, or the people against them, like as people and not just like faceless demons to like torture and rip apart, like whenever possible.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. So there's two things that stand out when it comes to like themes and morals and whatnot. And what you said there about how she definitely had like a code that she lived by, and not just even people who she was technically better than, or like she had the moral high ground, like you said, she still wanted to live by that code of like, they are still people.
Yeah.
And I want to read another part that I highlighted. She goes, "You mean to shoot French patriots in their own camp?" This is what someone says to her. And she said, oh, let me give more context. Sorry. So, they find out that there are 3 women in the camp, and it's not supposed to be any women except for Nancy in the camp. And they have those women in the camp because they kidnapped them and they were essaying them. So they find the 3 women. Someone takes them back to their village where they were, and then they are trying to get the men who kidnapped these women and essayed them. And the leader of them, like the captain, or I don't know military terms, whoever's over them, he goes, so Nancy's like, okay, we're going to get them, and we have to shoot them because you can't just like essay women. Like, that's not what we're doing here. We're soldiers. We are fighting for the good cause. You can't just do that. And then he's like, you mean to shoot French patriots in their own camp? And she says, I mean to execute men who have kidnapped and raped innocent women in the name of patriotism. And then he goes, the Nazis would do worse to you, the Tsar spits. And then this is what she says. Yes, they would. And if we must not become more like the Nazis. And it's like that, I think that is something that even today, like in real life, like all the things we're going to, even like as Christians, as just citizens of this world, I think if we can remember, like, we are, yes, so-and-so, this, our quote-unquote enemy will treat us worse if they have the opportunity, but you are no better than them if you're doing the exact same thing as them. And I really think we forget that as like a society, as a culture. And I loved how she stuck with that. And then the second thing I think about like once a week ever since I read the part in the book is how she biked. She biked like further than I looked it up. I forgot. It was like miles. It's hundreds of miles. She biked hundreds of miles to get this one part so that they can radio, and like and her thighs were bleeding, and cause she couldn't do a car, so her thighs were bleeding. She was like, hungry. Like, it was just the idea of like biking and going and keeping going. That she didn't have, they didn't have GPS, so she's like trying to figure out, okay, is it this house or that house? Oh, I'm guessing it's this house. And like she could have like just the ability to just keep going and doing something because she knows she's right. Just, I mean, that just, I think about that. And then also to Henri, he had an opportunity to stick by people who he was supposedly just like, and to have a more cushy life and everything, but he decided to like sacrifice himself to save his wife, as well as, I mean, because of his sacrifice, his wife, as well as hundreds of thousands of people are saved, are alive to, well, they might not be alive today, but their descendants are alive today. There are like people whose families are alive today because he made that, like, so really good. Now, once again, I don't like to give out fives. I really don't. So I'm going to give this a 4.5. But I just want you to know, like, it was so good. The themes they really were handled very well. And like, it really did have this, like I said, this is just probably the most well-written book. I mean, we've read fantasy and all of us, we love fantasy, not young adults, we're not young adults, all of us adults or whatever. Well, I guess you're a young adult, but anyway, fantasy is like really popular now, and there's some Colleen Hoover, there's some critiques of that type of writing, and but this was just so, I mean, I'm just shocked this isn't on the same like list as other books, the way this is written. Anyway, I'm giving the themes in depth 4.5.
There you go. I'll have to buy some confetti or something so that the first time that you give out a 5, I can like throw it into the air.
Yeah.
Because I feel like if that didn't get a 5, I don't know what will. So I am gonna prepare that for that moment.
Yeah. Okay. So like it should be. I just feel like there had. I mean, I guess that technically would be a 5, but I feel like that's just not, like, you can't just give out a 5. Like,
so you give out the 5 when you are ready. When you're ready for the 5, you give out the 5.
Yeah.
Don't rush.
Yeah. You're right. I just don't feel like it just can't be a 5. Not right now.
Gotcha.
Okay. Spice level. So what we do here is, if it is 0 spice, because we think that's a good thing, we'll give it a 5. If it is nothing but spice, that'll be a 1, or a 1, I think is the lowest you can get. Sorry, I'm pulling up my thing. Elise, what did you think?
I was kind of wondering if you wanted to go first.
Okay, I can go first. Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
Yeah, I want to hear your thoughts on it, because I was torn with this one.
Okay, so I said a 4 when it comes to spice, because there was just like that one scene where they kind of get into it. But what I did like a lot is he would not have sex with her until they were married. But there was much innuendos. She did make it clear that she was not a good girl. She made that clear. And he was not a good boy. So in their past, but they were abstinent together, which I thought was beautiful. So I did give that a 4. Yeah.
Yeah, I was kind of at that same point where because I think it was like they got a little frisky at some points, but it wasn't like anything. It was all like closed door, or like just the teasing or the innuendos, or like just verbal flirting or what have you. So I kind of went like 3.5. I was where I kind of landed, because it was like anything that happened physically was like when they were married, and I liked them featuring that, and also like including the yearning with it, like not sacrificing that, but also like really making Henri like out to be a gentleman, in the context of their relationship. But there were definitely, I mean, first of all, she's hanging out with like all these men, soldiers, all the live long day. So there are some moments that kind of happen in that context where she, like has to lay down the law with them, or they, are like saying or suggesting things.
Wait, that's a good point too. I was just like strictly thinking sex, but no, you're right. If you include some of the things that they say that's like a little inappropriate, yeah.
Yeah. So
maybe I'll give it a 3.5 as well when you include that.
Twins. With twinsies. Yeah, just so I was kind of like trying to incorporate all of that of just like, there was very minimal like on the page, but there was a lot suggested or like discussed, and so I wanted to reflect that in my rating.
Yeah. No, you're right. I'm gonna update mine because you're right. I think, and even like some things, and I'm glad that they included it in the sense of like that it was real. How sometimes the men were watching her change, and that's inappropriate. That's not okay.
Yeah.
How sometimes, the men were saying dirty things to her because they just felt like they could, or like, the part that was just like, ugh, when she pretended that she was like someone's like mistress, and the guy the soldier person slapped her on the butt, like,
yeah,
disgusting. So
icky.
yeah, so you're right, so it does have those things, but I do think those things are necessary, but it does have those things in there, so I'm gonna move mine down to a 3.5 as well. Okay, last one, language. What did you think about the language? When it comes to cursing, essentially. That's what I mean.
Yeah,
okay.
I was trying to remember what exactly, like, what that was like, that the content on that. I feel like there was most of it, honestly, I feel like was in French.
Yeah.
So
like the spirit of it was there. So like that's why I gave it a 3.5. Because the spirit of cursing was there, but like it wasn't anything that we like say. And actually, which is so funny because I was just watching something. I cannot remember what I was watching, but the person spoke. Oh, Emily in Paris, duh. And someone said something to her, and she said "merde" or however you say it in French. And I was like, "Oh my gosh, I know what that means! I know what that means!" I mean,
no one has ever been that excited to know what that word
no,
means.
literally. I felt like that. Have you? Never mind. You probably haven't seen it. The Miranda Cosgrove when they said, "Do you curse a little?" And I'm like, "What?" Yeah, that's how I felt watching. Like, yeah, I know a word or two, but yeah. So, they said that word a lot in there, and then he taught her to curse like a Frenchman. I will say, so actually finish the language thing, and then I'll say my one like major critique, I guess.
Yeah, I gave it a 3 because I felt like it was moderate. I felt like most of what was included was like not words that have that same like impact or implication like in English, and
it didn't feel necessarily unnecessary. It just felt like too much, but it didn't feel like every time someone did curse, it wasn't like, not like some TV shows where it's GD every 5 seconds and it doesn't make any sense, but it was in there a lot. Like it wasn't, it didn't mince words.
And also, like, considering the context of the book, like we are in, we are in war.
Yeah.
So these are people that are rough around the edges. They're going through life or death situations. Like having a squeaky clean mouth is not high on their priority list. And it's also, none of them are, I don't think, supposed to be devout Christians. No. So it's kind of like, in that situation, would it even be realistic to have a book that doesn't have any, like any suggestion of cursing? Right. Probably not. Right. So I don't want to I don't want to beat it down for what was in there, because again, it wasn't anything that was like, intended to up the rating or anything. Yeah. It was just there for like, I feel like the realisticness of it. So I said 3.
And she said that in the author's note, she said that she actually toned it down. That in Nancy Wake's own writing, she curses a lot more. So I mean, it is what it is. So, I don't think it's something that should hinder. Like if you're reading it, I don't necessarily think it's something that should hinder you. Because like I said, it wasn't like it didn't feel like some movies today. It's just like, okay, there's no reason this person had to curse, but like it felt like pretty much within the context of the story, it made sense. So that's why I said 3.5. I couldn't give it a full 4, but yeah. Okay, so that is it. Before we get to the TOG score, I do want to say one thing that I guess I just wanted to comment and share my opinion on is I really liked how she used her femininity. That is one thing. If if we ever get one more chance at this life, I want to like become incredibly hot and use my beauty for good instead of evil. I have one or two friends that are actually like in the pretty bubble. Nice girls, love them. But sometimes they do stuff and I'm like, you guys could be, I mean, you could be changing the world. Like, it's a joke, it's her face launches wars. But no, they're like, that is how things, like, women, like, when we're truly, like, beautiful and like walking in that and like, using our powers for good instead of evil, like, we can change the world. And I mean, she literally did. Like, that was the thing too. She was just so beautiful that people weren't really thinking, okay, she's a spy. And, she played the part. So like that I loved. I thought that was really cool. And I think that's like how people should be using their beauty. If you have that ability, use it. Use it. And then I also want to say that one thing that, like, I mean, you had to do it, but I just would not want to do is I did not like, from a personal standpoint, I don't think it like affects the story. Once again, the story was fabulous, but I don't think it necessarily affects the story. But like personally, I would not want to have to like stoop down to the level of like cursing like a man and like doing all these things like a man and like drinking like a man. Like, I want to drink like a woman. Actually, I want you to apologize when you curse in front of me. I am a lady. Like, that's how I want to do things. But and more, I guess you can't do those type of things. But like personally, that's how I would want to do it. But yeah, that's some of my other thoughts.
Yeah, that's so interesting. I feel like I kind of like the perspective of, and I feel like it's very like book worthy of like, she's this gorgeous, stunning woman, and heads turn when she walks into the room, and she like, she's still like, she's a spy and she uses that or whatever. But I also kind of think like, low key, it would have been easier for her. There are several times in the book when it would have been easier for her to be ugly. Like, she probably could have passed, by most of those checkpoints and things, like, if she wasn't rich and gorgeous. Like, there are several moments where people question her because she's hot and rich.
Okay, so that is something too about society that is very fascinating when it comes to beauty. I don't like, I'm going to do I have lots of thoughts and opinions because of lived experience. I'm going to do my best not to project, just to have like a regular conversation about this. But I have noticed, like, ugly privilege. If you are on TikTok, I'm sure you've seen the ugly privilege discussions and like pretty privilege discussions. There is like a spectrum of beauty, and and we're not talking beauty in your heart or like God thinks everybody's beautiful. We're talking about like in society, okay? Okay, we live in a world, we live in a society. There is a spectrum of beauty. And it does appear for something like this, really, really, really beautiful people are going to get stopped. And then I truly think like are going to get stopped for their beauty or whatever. I think someone who is like really, really unattractive would not get stopped. But I think someone who is like relatively unattractive. So, okay, let me back up. So what you said, you're right. Like, if there were times she could have been like quote unquote ugly, but I do agree, like she could go under the radar. But if she was like a smidge less ugly, it wouldn't have done well either. You know what I mean? Like, you either have to be like really, really beautiful or like really, really ugly sometimes in society to get things done. I'm sorry, that's just kind of like how, like, if you're just like a naturally beautiful average girl, I think that you're not going to have the same type of like opposite experiences. And I even think in like instances of like okay, for example, like when it comes to like boys, like when you're like really, really pretty, boys are going to talk to you and they're going to want to open doors and they're going to like love your existence. When you're like really, really not pretty, they're going to ignore you, might close the door in your face, might match with you to be mean to you. Like, they're going to do those things. But if you're just like a regular average girl, guys just going to be like, hey, you're human. It's just like a spectrum. Like, it's just so, and this is just now I'm like saying adding to this aspect of it. That's what's so interesting. I don't want to say hard about being a woman because like you can game the system. You figure out where you're at. You either get out of where you're at, or you game the system where you're at. So you can figure it out. So I don't want to be like, oh, woe is me being a woman. But I do think that is one of the things about being a woman is like our beauty, like how it really does shape how you are perceived and affected in the world. I mean, even statistically, like if you're more attractive, you're more likely to get jobs and to be given raises. You're more likely to be taken seriously than if you're, I'll say this, if you're like if you're super attractive, you won't be taken seriously. If you are super unattractive, you won't be taken seriously. But if you're like moderately attractive, you'll be taken. It's such a spectrum, and it's just so like, it just really puts, to me, it just also makes me want to be more intentional about not judging people by their looks. Like, it makes me really want to be more intentional of like, if someone looks nerdy or is weird looking, I still treat them as if I would the most beautiful girl in the world, or most handsome guy in the world. Like, it just really puts that into perspective. All right, I just ranted on beauty. Elise, I saw your face. You have tons of thoughts. Go ahead.
No, the whole time I just was thinking, I'm like, which category am I in? Like, I feel like we need to have a TOG score for books and then also for beauty.
No. One thing I won't be doing is telling you, you know what? Here's the thing. Here's the thing. Let's all be honest with ourselves. We know where we stand. We might not like where we stand. We might be embarrassed where we stand. We all know where we stand. If you take a couple of minutes, think about where you stand, how your life experiences have been, you know where you're standing. Don't say it. I'm not going to say where I stand. You don't say where you stand. If you're listening, you can say it to yourself. I wouldn't tell your friends and family, but we all know where we stand. Yeah.
I'm trying. Should we have this?
Why not?
People are gonna be sitting there questioning their whole lives.
I mean, what? Well, okay. I mean, that's kind of like what the book made a huge point to say. Like, her beauty is what got her through. So, like, we're still talking about the book. Okay, but
we're here to be real. On Oops spoilers, we're here to be real, and we don't shy away from the hard questions.
And like, but that's the reality of it. Like, in the book, it does say like, you are like, her beauty is what got her through things. Her beauty is like what made it happen. So
yeah.
And here's the thing, everyone, beauty is also in the eye of the beholder. So, and to wrap it up and like to end on the positive note, at the end of the day, like, who really cares? I think you should be, personally, and this is now I'm bringing in life experiences, I think it's good to know so that you can, how you navigate life. I think it's important, but if you think too much about it, it does make you extra happy or extra sad. So I wouldn't spend too much time thinking that, but I think it is good to know so you know how to navigate the world. Because once again, if she didn't realize how beautiful she was, she might have thought, maybe I'll just sit at the desk instead of like going out and being the action and like doing the things that she needs to do. Anyway, don't comment where you are, because I really don't tell me where you think you are. But let us know what you thought about the book. Elise, anything else you want to add about the book before we give out the score?
I think that, like, no matter who you are, no matter where you're at, no matter what you think you're capable of or where you think you fall on the scale, like, you can find a way to use that for God's glory
100%.
and for the good of the people around you. And so I think that's my biggest takeaway, is that no one is like incapable of being an instrument for change. No one doesn't have a spot or doesn't have a role to play. And so, like, just like Nancy did, where she used her influence and her wealth and her name and her face to be the change that she thought France needed at the time. Like, find a way to be that change for your nation, for your time, for your people. And don't let yourself be stopped by anything around you or anyone around you that's not of God.
Agreed. And to piggyback off of that, also to end it on another positive note, the Bible talks about how we all have different roles. We are all different part of the body. We all have different parts of the body. So our roles are going to be different in whatever it is that God has called you to do. You might not do it exactly like Nancy. You might not do it exactly like Mary Beth. You might not do it exactly like Elise. But you're going to do it like how God has called you to do. And that, I think that's the other takeaway to, the beauty part, like, cool, whatever. We're girlies, want to talk about the beauty. But, like, also, that's what God gave her, and she used that. I think that's the most important part. Maybe God gave you a voice to sing. Use that. I don't know how song would be important in war, but the troops need to be encouraged. I don't know. I'm just throwing that out there. We're also not in war, so that's a bad example. But you guys know what I'm trying to say. Like, in whatever situation you're in, like use what God has given you. And like Elise said, don't let the world, society hold you back from like what God has already put inside of you. It's really important that you recognize like what you do and like how you are supposed to do it, and not be concerned about how everyone else is.
Yeah.
All right.
And that's a wrap.
Well, we got to give our scores.
True. Mine, I came out to a 3.5. All of them.
Wow, that's fascinating. Okay, mine's a 4. So I guess we can, I just feel...
round up to a 4.
Okay, good.
I can round up
I was going to say, I feel uncomfortable, like 4 plus 3.5. Let's see.
Yeah, no, 4 is perfect. I am comfortable with that.
5 by 2. 3.75. No, that makes me so uncomfortable. 4.
4 it is.
A 4. And you guys let us know if you read the book, what you thought, if you thought the conversation was interesting that we just had. If you like the book, let us know. If you were like, actually, this was like the worst book I ever read, let us know that as well. We're going to continue to do reviews of books, movies, TV shows, as well as interviews. And what is the third branch that we're doing here, Elise? Well, that you're doing?
Just focusing on creating spaces for like stories and media, the creation of those, the enjoyment of those, and just the way that those all reflect and point back to our creator. So
absolutely love
anything that falls in those categories, fair game.
Yes. Okay, so everyone, make sure you rate, review, subscribe, all of that. And join us again for another Oops Spoilers. Bye.